Urbz was founded by Rahul Srivastav, who's an anthropologist who's on the right of me, and Matthias Echenove, who's an economist and urban planner. So they really laid a very radical approach to participatory urban planning. And our team has grown. We now have Geeta, Bharat, Jay, the two of us. And basically, we just really wanted to, shout out to them and give them credit because it's all teamwork. Um, that's the green button. Okay, so Urbz was born in 2008 in the neighborhood of Dharavi, which is infamously known as Asia's largest slum. But to us, Dharavi has been a place that we've learned a lot from, and we're going to take this opportunity today to share some of these learnings with you.
So around the world, the communities are the one who are involved in the very act of making, whether it's art, crafts, or homes. And they are the one who are actually making their built environment. However, if you take a walk in any neighborhood, you will realize that the neighborhood is not just the built form, the physical form that we see. Rather, it's layers of socio-economic, cultural, gendered aspects which come together, all together, and then they make a neighborhood.
So it's no surprise that actually design professionals, and it's actually also a relief that design professionals don't contribute as much to the built environment as local communities do. And we need to maybe understand how people produce habitats like Dharavi. How do people really come together and make their own environments? So our practice, for the two of us being architects within the firm, our practice is really questioning our own role as designers and architects and going from architecture as a professional practice to architecture as a cultural practice. So how do people really shape their habitats?
But unfortunately, the habitats that are produced by the community, at least in the global south, are termed as informal, while the habitats produced by, say, the state or the private entities are considered formal. But if you are not from Mumbai and have been to Mumbai for the first time, you can see that there is a very classic qualitative difference between these two forms. And housing is a topic that's actually very dear to me. Even my family has gone through the history of displacement. And I also got to work, actually, ironically, on some of the slum redevelopment projects in Mumbai. And then very soon realized that they actually are not doing justice to the inhabitants who are actually going to inhabit these buildings later. Rather, it just consider the inhabitants as mere beneficiaries. So our first learning from our practice in Dharavi has been to recognize what we see in front of our eyes. Recognize that people actually contribute in building their own environments, building their own habitats, and recognize their efforts while doing so.
So here's a map of Mumbai, and that's Dharavi in the red. It's literally in the heart of Mumbai. So Dharavi is just about 2.5 square kilometers and hosts a population of nearly 1 million. And it's not only a residential neighborhood where the residents have really actually optimized every square feet as a site of production. So they say that it's estimated that Dharavi's economy is from around 500 million to 1 billion US dollars per year. So what we've noticed is that Dharavi is really a neighborhood where we've gotten to observe direct participation. So without any architects, planners, civic officials, it's the residents, local contractors, artisans, and masons that build this neighborhood to respond to people's needs and aspirations. Dharavi is also home to numerous industries like plastic recycling, potter's industry, garment making, glass and metal fabrication, just to name a few.
And since today we can't go to Dharavi, we thought that we will bring Dharavi to you. So we brought some glimpses from Dharavi. This is one of the main market street in Dharavi. This is one of the interior hustle. Then And this includes a live-work environment, what we call it as a tool house, an environment where families bring both the economic and the domestic lives together under one roof. And this is what actually makes Dharavi. And we don't consider Dharavi as a slum because we feel that the word slum actually doesn't do justice to Dharavi. And hence we call the neighborhood as homegrown neighborhood. So to actually celebrate this typology of tool house, which also is present in another Asian countries, we started this project called Homegrown Street. You can see that some of the models are actually displayed in the exhibition area, at least they were displayed yesterday. So in this project, what we did was to know more about the tool house, we mapped an existing street in Dharavi. We mapped 20 households, documented their stories, and these stories were converted into briefs. These briefs were handed over to contractors, the local contractors that you saw in the previous slide. And they were the one who actually gave the architectural design. So we were not the designers of these buildings. They were the one who designed them. And the artisans from Dharavi, they were the one who gave a physical form to these models. So this project is really to celebrate their skills, their design, their aesthetical understanding.
We will try to project our voices. Hello? Okay, it's back on. Hello? Yeah. So in Dharavi, we really understood the value of locality. And so now wherever we have projects, we've realized that every locality has human capital, a rich natural ecosystem, and various existing structures or assets. So the homegrown neighborhood is basically one that is very dynamic, growing rapidly and constantly responding to the residents' needs. And here we come to our second main learning from Dharavi is that form follows process. And as designers, how do we become a part of this process and how do we facilitate already existing dynamics with our skills? One of the first steps that we took to become part of the process is to embed ourselves in the locality. So this is the main road of Dharavi with our office there in the red and yellow building in the background. And now we've adopted this methodology for projects around the world.
And when we start working, and these are actually the learnings from Dharavi again, we consider the locals, the end users, to be the first primary experts to share knowledge about their neighborhood with us. And so we also consider that every resident has the agency to build their own neighborhood and shape their own environments as per their need and aspiration. So we do this by documenting stories, their stories. We document their relationship with the neighborhood and then try to understand the needs and aspirations, as also even Swati mentioned in the previous presentation, that it's documenting the needs and aspirations is what also comes very naturally in this process. We do this through interviews, through several focus group discussions, very informal setup.
Shout out to the aunties in Koliwada.
Yes. Workshops, we conduct design workshops with the groups. Then do several neighborhood level walks. This really makes us experience the neighborhood firsthand. And also conduct several exhibitions with and for the community.
So one thing we soon realized was the importance of the role of the contractor in Dharavi. And he's a very central figure because people go to him and he's the one who gets things done and builds houses for people. So we started working with several local contractors. This is one of the posters we made, in fact, calling out for more contractors to join us. And it's been a mutual learning experience. They have now begun to value our skill, and we've learned a tremendous amount from them and their adaptive building techniques. So I think Swati, you mentioned this earlier too. So design doesn't really start on the drawing board, but design begins and ends as a conversation, and this conversation has to be rapid, responsive, and a very generative conversation. In keeping with the spirit of working with local communities and local economies, we've done a lot of work with local artisans like Ayub Bhai, who's a metal fabricator. We're currently working with Abbas Bhai, who's an excellent potter from the Kumbhar community, and we're working with him on a project in Dharavi.
So over the years, since we have managed to develop a relationship with the contractors, and we have actually got a chance to work with on certain projects with them in the neighborhood of Dharavi, Kolivada. And this series of work, we call it as Dharavi Works. And yes, the pun is intended if you guys got it. And here the process is that the contractor or the owner actually approaches us and asks us to participate in the design process of their newly redeveloped chawls. So over the years, the collaboration has led to several projects, and many more are ongoing under construction right now. These are normally chawl buildings, so it's a collaborative effort of co-designing with the residents and the contractors. Yeah. So chawl is a typology that you can commonly see in Mumbai, and it normally lower middle class and sometimes middle class residents also inhabit chawls. They are mostly like condo systems. I think historically they were introduced by the Britishers to the city to house the army back then, but then eventually it was co-adopted by the residents of Mumbai, by the
And also the mill workers,
mill
to
workers,
house
yeah.
migrant mill workers.
Yeah. And in Mumbai, the most famous chawls that you can hear about are the BDD chawls. And these were actually after the bubonic plague that had hit, and the British government wanted to de-densify, and hence the chawls' typology was then like co-opted to build housing as response to the bubonic plague. So as we said, very naturally, we start with a series of discussions with the residents. We design, we all actually co-design the project. And through all these years, what we have realized are there are certain like recurring concerns that people have, and so for us, as architects, these recurring concerns are light, ventilation, vertical circulation, because people are adding floors on their existing footprint. But for the residents, their concerns are that they want their neighbors. They don't want to shift. And this is something you will not get to see in public housing projects. You don't know what your neighbors are going to be. Then, and then being in Dharavi also allows us to be very hands-on in the construction project. Actually, I mean, we don't actually construct the building, but we can facilitate the process of construction by ensuring that, okay, things are going as pre-planned. And also the construction process is very rapid because it tries to create less hassle to the neighborhood. And it's very dynamic. So we need to know like what's happening, because things can change in a day's time.
Overnight.
Yeah. And then there is something new that has also started to happen where when the building is getting constructed, during the process, the residents start imagining their interior spaces. So as also Swati mentioned, that drawings are something that only architects can understand or designers can understand. What we have started doing is that we are making actual floor plan layouts by laying bricks. Thank you.
Is that the 2 minute? Okay.
Good, well done. So yeah, this is we are doing for one of the project.
Yeah, these are some of the projects we've co-created with a contractor called Joseph, who's in love with the color yellow, as you can see. Um, yeah, so really, basically design that can respond to the homegrown, so to constantly be on site and quickly keep adapting. I'm going to go faster. So this is us celebrating Holi in Dharavi, Kolivada, and what we've realized that it's actually participation, and that really builds communities and helps build environments. And so we want to continue collaborating and participating with the community.
So we also got a chance to work on this project, start this project, also by the grant that we got from the same institute, RIAC, as mentioned by Swati previously, called Action-Based Comprehensive Plan for Dharavi Kolivada. Now, Kolivadas are settlements of the indigenous fisher folks of Mumbai, and I too come from the same community. So the urban future of my community is something that I'm very concerned about, and hence this project is very dear to me. And Kolivaras are now termed as Gautans, urban villages by the government, and they are exempted. This particular Kolivada is now exempted from the larger development of Dharavi redevelopment project, as some of you might know about. So what we are trying to do in this through ABCD is to explore alternative solutions or alternative approaches to the top-down redevelopment model of the state and the private entities. So we began by people's participation through interviews, focus group discussions, workshops, exhibitions. And so this all these discussions have triggered to certain interventions that are informing the comprehensive plan. And these intervention ideas are given by the community themselves. So we are working on water supply, sanitation, and stormwater infrastructure, redesigning that for the entire neighborhood, and also powering the streets with solar-powered lights. And we are converting an old customs house, into a study hall.
We're also working on a really special project, which is along the Meethi River, and we call it the Garden of Festivities. So here you see Kolis in their boats on Narali Purnima, and they actually worship the waters on this day, and this is just an illustration of that. I'm just going to take another minute. So this is the landscape, that's Kolivada, and in red is the plot of land that they own along the Meethi River, which is here. And now what most people don't know is that there are these fishing ponds in the Meethi River that the Kolis have been maintaining for the last 150, 200 years, and they still fish in there. But they've kind of been cut off from the landscape due to infrastructure projects. But they still have a living memory of how abundant this landscape was prior to the road building and metro and all of that. Unfortunately, this is the state of the Meethi River, and behind these mangroves are the ponds. So they're really struggling, even now. This is our friend Wilson Kohli with his catch of tilapia for the day. And what we've learned is that it's communities like them who are at the forefront of even thinking about solutions to climate change. And because the environment is really an extension of this community. And their livelihoods depend on it. And they're directly affected by, the environmental issues of our time.
What we are doing is, okay, just
wrap up maybe?
Yeah. Okay, great. So we are basically, gathering indigenous knowledge from the community, and then they are the one who are actually telling us the solutions for the project and for the environment of the Meethi River. And yeah, we are working with the Fishermen's Association of Dharavi Kolivada to co-design these projects. We got to present these projects during the this year's Narali Purnima event.
And yeah, with the community, we've come up with some design guidelines, and we're planning a lot of things for this site. I won't get into that. But basically, to conclude, participation really changes the way we plan and design, where we can move from a quantitative to a qualitative approach, where we are not really producing urban plans, but we're going into neighborhoods and creating neighborhood projects where we're not driven by form, on imposing form, but it's process driven, and when we're co-creating and not consensus building. So our third and final learning is that mess is more. And what we mean by this is not to be afraid of what appears to be a mess, but to really dive in and to try to reveal the underlying order.
And yeah, so we have managed to.
We can maybe wrap up.
It's wrap up.
But yeah, we just wanted to say that we've been exporting these learnings around the world to Bogota, to Geneva. And yeah, we want to continue this knowledge transfer from the global south to the global north. Thanks.